Today, I want to talk about how men become depressed, lonely, and dangerous. What do I mean by this? I mean that men become dysfunctional and bad products of society. I consider myself an example. I've been through a lot of trauma and I believe it has affected me a lot mentally. The main point that I want to talk about is that most men, at least like me, you don't really have a support system or really a social group that we could fall back on, and we also become social rejects. If you spend a long time isolated and without having, a good social, you're just having friends overall, or people you can trust, or just really people you like at all, because some people, they have people in their social group but they're toxic or just not good for them and they hate them, but they're stuck with them, you know? Like family members or, maybe have a partner, something like that. For example, in my case, I had a really rough start in high school. I was a subhuman, I was like obese, just not good looking, not very tall at all. I looked like a fucking nerd. I was weird as well, which is my fault because I was chronically online, during quarantine and, all of that. And I learned my humor, through very edgy media. I was not a normie at all. Normies would find me disgusting. There was a time where I got very sick and I had to breathe like through my mouth. It was just loud, right? Because I was fat, right? And people in my class, just people overall in school, thought I was like smelling girls and shit. Like they thought I was a fucking creep and like I was just a weirdo overall. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how they thought of me. I was really just a normal dude, but like, I mean, it wasn't normal, but like, I wasn't like that. I was just a fucking shy like kid that was chronically online, and yeah, I really just needed to reset, and then I could be normal. I'm still insecure about my weight, but especially at this time, I was very insecure about my looks, about my intelligence, just about everything in life. And during the start of my high school year, it just amplified everything, and I just became super lonely. I tried making friends in school. It was very hard at first. I was just lonely as shit, man. Like this time also didn't get much sleep. I'm talking about less than like 4 or 5 hours, like probably 3 hours. And I was also addicted to, jerking off and just a bunch of things led to each other. I just felt like shit. I hate my family and I believe that they're like torturing me every single day. It's how it feels like. And really I just wanted to end it. And this is also the time where Andrew Tate started becoming prevalent to social media and the red pill overall. And I ended up finding these because I started becoming insecure and I started searching up tips on YouTube. I just had to be better, more attractive. Even though I knew deep inside I was like corny as shit and whatever. But I just wanted to seek help, because I didn't have anyone to talk to about this type of stuff. Eventually I found Andrew Tate. Then I got into the red pill and, it just changed my life forever, for the good or bad. And I sort of want to talk about the reason why people buy courses or like communities, like they buy into communities like Agitate, the real world. And it's because they want to be in a social group with people like them. At least in my opinion, right? Because that's one of the main points, of buying into that community, right? Just having people that are like-minded. And I felt this because, in high school, I thought that there was like no one like me. No one is like me. I can't relate to anyone. I was lonely as shit. My own goals, my own personality didn't fit with any person, like any group in school. I was an outcast. And the solution seemed that I should buy the real world, which I never did, but it seemed like a good solution. I think it's one of the reasons why people buy into communities like that is because they wanted to find a social group. Not all the time though. There are some times where you really want to buy, into that because there's courses and actual valuable information. But for people like me, that like, young teenagers that got into the red pill, I think it's because of that. And they're also insecure as fuck. That's why they got into red pill to improve themselves, because they're like, why can't I get any girls? Am I uglier? Shit like that. That's also why people get into the black pill, I think, in my opinion, and looks maxing. Well, not all of them, but most of them, because they're insecure and they want to improve something. At least back then, because now looks maxing is like mainstream and shit. But back then, like 2024, at least like 2023, about that time, it was super niche. It was very like, it was definitely a small community at the time, at least in my opinion, like smaller, not like now, but people like that, just basically just people who are insecure and want to find a social group. Those were the type of people that were in those communities. That's how they got into them, at least in my opinion or my theory. And yeah, just social rejection. Thing is that if you get into red pill and black pill, eventually you're gonna run into the dark triad traits. This is where shit gets dangerous because you learn how to be basically a piece of shit, a sociopath and a psychopath. And I did this myself. I used it in a way to defend myself. Let me explain. I learned how to be stoic and manipulative so I could put up a different personality of myself to show to people because I hated everyone around me. And it drove me insane. It gave me huge cortisol spikes, right? So to keep myself sane and be able to cope with reality, I created a different personality that was rather stoic and just quiet. Because if I showed my true personality, people would judge me and thought I was weird. You know how I did in high school. I created a different personality, like a mask, to put up in high school to cope. Because if I showed my true self, people would think I'm disgusting and everything. Maybe I am, but I don't think I'm that weird. I'm just edgy. And people take this pain and they want revenge on people, you know, which I think it's interesting. This is why you see school shootings happen. They're socially rejected and they have all this pain. They learn all of these bad habits, like all this bad, like terrible ideas. Just want to join like very edgy internet groups, and you know they learn how to do bad things. I guess another example could be like gang members. Not all of them, of course. There are exceptions, but you know, people get treated like shit early in life. They have no social group, like no like social support system, like a family or you know just brothers. And to find those things that people really need through joining a gang, because the gang is their family now. And have the brothers that would die for the gang, and vice versa. The gang would die for them. So that's why I think like finding a social group support system is super important for men. Like there's women as well. It is mostly men, right? There's literally like a study, like there's like actual like data that shows that men are more often to end their lives by way bigger ratio than women do. So yeah, it is mostly men. And these days, more and more people are struggling to find social groups and support systems. They don't have them, you know? And I think this is very dangerous. It creates problematic people. I don't think I'm healthy at all, you know, mentally. I have shit that I need to fix. You know, there was a time where around this same period of time when I was like into high school, 14, 15, you know, how I made a mask and all that. I felt so much pain that, you know, I had basically like a mental breakdown every other like day or week. And, you know, I also cried a lot. And every single time it happened, I felt less and less emotion. I detached more and more from reality, you know, because of a way to cope. Because if I didn't detach from reality, I would just feel more and more pain. It hurt too much, right? And this is very dangerous because, well, obviously you detach from reality, and then you think some dangerous things are normal, or you just don't care about them. When you become desensitized to dangerous ideas. That was basically my way of like coping through like a hard time, like trauma. I believe that just all of what I'm talking about in this video is happening more and more to men. You know, this is sort of why I got into self-improvement and the red pill and the black pill. All of this is because of insecurity, because I wanted to improve myself. And these views, they can be dangerous. You have to be very careful. I do think there's good things to self-improvement, of course. It's good to improve yourself, right? Just be better as a human, but you have to be careful. You know, you have to stay grounded at times, because when you're online, you can see or meet all types of people that are not normal. And you're also by yourself, you know? Like, you're also in an echo chamber. The problem is that it's not easy for men to find a support system and create one. Because trust me, if we could, we would instantly. Men sadly have to buy into these support systems and communities. It's sad. Unless you become famous or wealthy, it's sort of hard to do this, you know? Especially if you're sub 5 like I was, and you're not neurotypical. These things add up, and that's how you end up in these communities. That's how you end up, you know, becoming depressed, lonely, and dangerous. I want to make it clear that when I mean by dangerous, I don't mean like powerful and strong. I just mean that you're so weak, you can't control yourself, that become harmful to society. It's not a good thing to be really dangerous. It's good to be powerful and be able to defend yourself and your loved ones, but dangerous is not the same thing as powerful, or you know, whatever definition you want to use for just being strong. It's different. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching.